this example, I'd like to do another reading of an XML file and parsing it. So I did this previously, and this will just be another example, and maybe something new will come up that I didn't quite cover in the other one. So the code for this can be found at the URL scene, and this sort of started life as a test. So somewhere in here, there's a Word document, so you can see if you want what the test was like. And I have a sort of, this HTML file was sort of a starter HTML file that I gave on the test so that people had to build from there. So anyway, here we go. So again, another XML example, and the URL is seen. Okay, so this was my finished coded version. Okay, so here was the HTML, and I'm in VS Code, and I have a live server extension installed, and I said, right-clicked on the HTML and said open. What else did I do? I've opened the folder. So when using the live server, it wants you to open the folder. So I opened the folder, and then I right-clicked and opened the live server, and it comes up to a random song. So this time it came up to Flock of Seagulls. It has a list of songs and a drop-down select. It displays information based on those. Shows an album cover. It has a iframe here with the lyrics, who the writers of the song, who the label for the song, the year of the song, the artist of the song, and a link to the wiki page for this song. Okay, so that's the page that we are making. So here's the HTML, link over to the CSS. So I made the body and the iframe this hot pink, so I thought that was a good color for New Wave. Wrapper, this is the working with the grid styling. So this is a bunch of divs styled as a bunch of divs styled as a grid. And this says there were 4 columns. So we can see those 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I did all of the little stuff of spanning, which I sometimes do over here in the style, but I did some embedded style over in the HTML. So any kind of spanning of, so this is the common styling for all of the divs within the grid, but all the individual spans, you know, specifically be in this row in this column and span this many columns or that many rows, that is over embedded in the HTML. Let's head back to the HTML. So here is the overall wrapper class for the setting up the grid, and then they're all of the box style of class, and then I add any additional styling. So this first one's where the select is, it spans 2 columns. So it was in column 1 and grid 1, but it spanned 2 columns. So we could see that the drop-down list spans 2 columns. And we have more things like that. So the picture is in column 3 and is spanning 5 rows. So it starts in row 1 and spans 5 rows. And if there's an image with no source at this point and its width is 250 pixel, and so on down the line. So when the grid is something, does some additional spanning, it has a style. And in a lot of these boxes, I could have given the box, could have given the div an ID, but instead I've inserted a span. Okay. And then I connected to a class, NW, new wave class, and then I have some additional JavaScript that uses that class. Okay, so that's the HTML. The class is just the information about a new wave album. So the art, I think, is the cover, cover art of the album. There is an artist, the label who put out the song, the length of the song, the lyrics of the song. That'll be a text file that I'll then display that text file in the iframe, the title of the song, a link to the wiki, the writer of the song, the year of the song. So just a bunch of information about the song and a simple constructor. That's all there is to this class. And then all that information is over here in the new wave file. So this had some tag root, which I'm not going to use at all. Then there is a tag songs, and I'm not going to use that either. I want to use the repeated things. So I think in my last example, there was, at this level, I was already at the repeating thing, but the way this XML got constructed, there was root and songs are both sort of one-offs. And then it is element, which is the repeated thing. And that's something that you have to pay attention to in the XML, where we're sort of doing some looping over these XML elements. So we're making an array of objects. And so when we're trying to get an array of things, we're looking for the repeated thing. So element, all of these, art, artist, element, those are the repeated things. Songs is not the repeated thing. So that's an important distinction between this and the previous example. And okay, so here are all these tags. It's XML, so I just made up these tags. Okay. Now let's finally use the class and make the XML for the page. Here's me adding a change event to the select. So down below, I must define select song. I'm making an array of my new wave, will be new wave objects. I'm fetching the new wave file. It's in the same directory as the JavaScript and the HTML. They're all siblings. So I can see here in the Explorer, they're all siblings. I will eliminate the Explorer to have a little more room here. I'm using fetch. So I'm going out to get this resource, the new wave.xml resource. My first response, so I make a request. My first response of the things that might appear in my response, all I'm interested in is the text. So forward on the text, forget all the rest. And then, so that text becomes the data in this next then. And so then I am bringing in a parser that understands XML, and I'm giving it the data. So this is all starting an XML parser and handing it the data. Okay. And then I am setting up a loop, and I want to loop over something that's repeated. So it's not, we looked at this before, again, it's not songs. There was one tag, open and close tag songs. So that wasn't the repeated thing. Element or art or artists, those are the repeated things. So that's what appears. So I used element. I could have used art. They're all the same length. So I'm setting up an old-fashioned counting loop where I start at 0. I go up to, not including the length of the array, and going up by ones. And here is me using the XML parser. So I'm getting the elements by tag name. So it assumes I know what the tags are. It also assumes that each of my objects has all the same tags. So if that were not the case, there would be a problem here, but they all have an artist label, length, lyrics, etc. tags. I'm getting elements. Notice the S, elements by tag name. And so that's an array. Then I'm getting the ith element of that array. So that is one thing in the XML file. That's either this one if it's I is 0, or this one if I is 1. And then there can be any number of things inside an XML tag. It is extensible. So there could be items, children within children within children. I'm grabbing the 0th of the child nodes in that tag, and then I'm grabbing its node value. So I'm grabbing the first child. It may have its children of its own, but it doesn't. All I'm interested in is its node value, which will be the text. So this will be whatever the first song was, Eurythmics. So what property am I grabbing? Grabbing the art. So that is this JPEG. And then so I'm getting all variables for all of these properties. And then when I have all the properties I need, I can use my constructor. So here I'm using the keyword new, the name of my class, and W class. I have to respect the signature and make sure I get these all these properties in the right order for constructing my object. And then I'm making an object, and then the way this works, my NWI, I'm adding that object to my array. I'm grabbing my select, I'm looping over my array, I'm creating a new option, making the text of the option the title of the song, making the value the index I, and adding it to my select. I'm grabbing a random number, multiplying it by the length, getting the floor of that. So this is a random index, and then I'm dispatching a new event after I've set the value of the select equal to this random index. Then I pretend that the user chose that one. So that was, as I refresh, it's picking randomly new songs. When the user chooses a new song, we're going to the select and grabbing its value, which is an index. We're setting an object, which is the array at that index, and then using its various properties. There was the artist, we're displaying the year, we're displaying the art is the source of the image, the lyrics is the source of the iframe, so that's what displayed the lyrics. So this iframe and the image here are working fairly similarly, that they have a source, which is some local file. And then here is the link to the wiki. So I'm creating the whole HTML. I wanted it to not replace the page I'm on, but to open a new tab. So I use target equals _ blank. And then I'm changing the href property. So I'm concatenating together, inserting the wiki there. Now, as I said, this was a test. And so I had a number of students took this when it was a test. And some of them, I think they did this better than I did. They put in a anchor tag and gave it an ID, and then just changed the href property of it, rather than I'm sort of constructing a whole new anchor tag using concatenation. But they sort of put in their anchor tag and then just changed one property of it. So I thought they probably did a bit better than I did on that one. Okay, I think that's what I wanted to show you. And the big deal is the XML. And then if you had looked at the previous XML version, one thing to pay attention to is what's repeated and what's not. So if you were like using the previous one as your example, you might have been tempted to use songs for the array, but there's only one tag, songs. and the repeated stuff is really element. So it depends how the XML got made. You have to sort of look at it and make sure that you're noticing what you need to be noticing. What are the tag names? What are the repeated tag names, etc. in your XML? Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you with this example. Thanks much for your attention.